All right. Hello. Here we are.
Deja vu.
I know. Episode 4B
Yes.
this time. So we tried Leslie's boyfriend, who is our producer, basically, I would call him, was not here the last time we tried to record this last week. And we thought we had it after a couple bumps in the road.
Right.
Took us a little bit, a lot of clicking, a lot of poking around, but like we thought we had it.
And he even came out of the movie that he was at to help us a little bit. And we were like, score, we got it going.
Yeah. So we recorded, it was 39 minutes, I think, and only 4 minutes recorded, which is funny because we didn't touch it in between. So here we are.
So, and I think I told you before we started that Mercury was in retrograde. So some of y'all might not believe in that. And those of you who do, you're our people.
Believe it.
We believe it.
Because we're real proof that it messes with technology and communication, I think.
Yes.
Is what it is. And I'm
That's
sure
what
other
it is.
things, but planetarily. I don't know what's happening ever. Yeah, so here we
Right,
are.
so,
Second
second
round,
take.
second go round.
Okay.
And I think our original intention last time was to talk about some ghosts of relationships past that came about, but that's not such a big topic in the front of my mind anymore per se, but I think it's still relevant. And it all was kind of like brought to the table because a couple people from my past had reached out and tried to circle back out of nowhere, and that's never really happened to me before. So it ignited some type of like rage inside of me, which has subsided thankfully, and now it's just anxiety. But it's not just from that. It's just like the time of year and stuff like that. But I think we still want to talk about some of that and a couple other topics.
Yeah. And I think that makes sense too for this time of year because it is Christmas time. Christmas is next week. And so I know holidays are definitely difficult for a lot of people for a variety of reasons.
Yeah.
But I think that, yes, we don't have to spend too much time on the botched episode, but having those relationships come out of the past, I truly believe from my own experience, and I think maybe from some others, is that there is this test of the universe. Like, are you really ready? Are you really done? Have you done your work? Have you grown? And so those carrots are going to be dangled back in front of you, I think, until you're confident to be like, yeah, no, this person was not good for me, and I'm not going to go down that path again.
Yeah. I do think in some instances, whether it's like a romantic relationship or a friendship or something, like being open to potentially letting people back into your lives, like that's always an option too. Like you never have to just shut it down completely. Obviously, it depends on the severity of the situation. But I think these give us the opportunity to check in with ourselves and be like, are we allowing this person back into our lives out of like loneliness and desperation and these negative things,
Right.
or are we letting them back into our lives because we like truly genuinely want to see like if they're good for us again or if they're going to bring anything into our lives. So it's never black and white, which sucks because I like definitive answers.
No, it's people and emotions and things are different. People do grow, evolve, and change.
Yeah.
Ideally. And those who don't and who are stunted, you want to stay away from them because they don't bring anything to the table.
Yeah. And it makes you question your self-worth or review how you feel about yourself, because you are like, if you are letting someone in and you know in your gut if it's good or bad, like you know what the chaotic feeling feels like, you know what like the negativity feels like if you're letting them back in your life because you're like, well, I have nothing else going on or whatever the case may be, like, I don't know, it's kind of like you're abandoning yourself.
Yes. So, yes, you'd mentioned something about that. And I don't really know what that means, that particular term, but I can make some assumptions.
Yeah.
Our mascot is stretching and getting
sorry, geez.
extra comfy.
Love self-abandonment, I guess.
Of like not being your authentic self, like not listening to your intuition and
not listening to your gut.
Okay.
Yeah. And like doing things kind of like in a numb state and not trying to numb things out. So like drinking a lot when you know there's like things that you need to like sit with and address internally, or like doing drugs or going out, and like if you go through a breakup and you're not like reconciling the heartbreak or like anything that you've learned, you're just going out and trying to meet new people just to like replace that
Right.
kind of things.
It's definitely an avoidance tactic to not sit with yourself, because it's hard to sit with yourself and get quiet.
It sounds so easy, and you're like, duh, I do it all the time, but it's not. You, at least for me, like I haven't learned how to do that until I started going to therapy this year, or got the right therapist this year. And I feel like for me, at least, I keep myself very busy. Like I'm moving my body, I'm going out, I'm doing things, I'm interacting, I'm listening to podcasts, I'm listening to music. And they're all distractions.
Right.
Because you can't have all of that like on and going if you actually want to like listen to like the voice inside and like your different parts and all of that stuff. So yeah, it's challenging to like stop yourself and be like, what is happening like inside of me? And is this good? Is this bad? How do I fix it?
Well, it's really scary. And I think that there are so many people who do that. And I know of people who just don't want to deal with grief, for example. And so they just keep staying busy and moving forward and pretending that nothing's happening. And then you're not going to be able to grow from that. And like you said, it's going to come out in another way where you're going to get addicted to drugs or drinking too much. And it's destructive instead of being healthy.
Yeah. I have people in my life who have lost people, and grief is uncomfortable, period. Like it's not something that anyone wants to feel or go through or address, but I see them ignoring it. Like I know you, and I know that this is going to come up 5 years, 10 years, however many years down the road, and it's going to manifest in panic attacks or like different ways. And if you just keep putting it off, what good is that? You're going to be okay in the moment, but at the end of the day, like you're not working through it. So yeah.
Did they have some tips on how, or what was the podcast? Did they have tips on how to?
The podcast was Mark Groves. I think that's the title of it is his name. And it was the original thing that caught my attention was the title, and it was like why humans struggle with commitment. Because usually you see like, why do men struggle with commitment or whatever. So I was like, that's interesting, because I'm in like this part of my life where I'm not dating right now. And so I'm just trying to learn as much like about myself and like the psychology of dating and other people. So he started talking about it like through a story from his college days. I think he might be in like his 40s now. So when he was younger, I think he was like 19, he was dating a girl. They lived in Canada. That's where he's from. So they were dating. She got a scholarship in the United States for sports or something like that. So they were like, all right, she's going to go. We're going to see if we can make this work or whatever from afar. And he visited her once or twice, and then they came back for Canadian Thanksgiving, which is at the end of October, I think. And she brought a guy back, a friend from school. And she was like, yeah, we're just friends, whatever. Like, so Mark went to the Thanksgiving with his girlfriend and her friend, her guy friend from college. And he was like sitting there and just like watching them. And he was like, I know there's something here. Like, there's definitely something going on. So he was talking about like the end of the night. He asked her, I guess he was like crying, and he asked her, and she was like, I think he said, is this it? Like, are we done? Are we breaking up? And she was like, yeah. Oh. So that was like a real shitty way to find out that you're breaking up with somebody, or someone's breaking up with you. So after that, he did what most young people do and like went out, partied, tried to, this might be inappropriate, but oh well. He brought a girl home, and he like couldn't get it up. And he was like so embarrassed, and like was like, well, I don't know what's going on. Let me just like keep going out and drinking and try it again. And so 40-year-old Mark realizes now, or started to realize like later into his 30s, that the reason that wasn't happening was because like he didn't like reconcile the heartbreak. He just tried to like glaze over it and do the things that country songs tell you to do, or like your guy friends are telling you to do, or whatever, and just go out and get over it. There was no like sitting with the uncomfortable feelings, and he was betrayed by somebody that he loved, and he didn't like, he avoided all of it. So that was like the self-abandonment piece, and I was like, oh my God, who doesn't do that?
Which is so interesting. I love hearing men kind of go through these things and acknowledge it. It takes a very evolved man to be emotionally intelligent and
Yes.
look inward.
Yeah.
But that's that phrase, right? The best way to get over someone is to get under someone.
I know. That's never worked.
No, that doesn't work.
In the moment, it's like fun and fine and whatever, but you surely do not feel better after.
No.
The next day, the next week, or whatever.
Crappier. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Because then you're also bringing in somebody else's energy into your shitty situation. So it's like a spiral, like a true spiral. So that's self-abandonment in a bit of a nutshell, I think. At least that's what it means to me. And I did that a lot with like these guys that have popped back in. I think if you like are in tune with yourself and your gut feeling and your intuition and stuff, you know like what feels good and what doesn't, and what's right and what's not right. And I knew I was just dicking around with these guys, and like they weren't the right person for me necessarily.
Right.
It was just fun.
Well, and I think it takes a long time to get there, because you can listen to your intuition, but just be like, that's crazy making, but it's my normal. And so that's what I know.
Yeah.
Because then when you finally evolve and turn 53 and get into what is a normal relationship, it's very strange. And so even though your intuition is like, no, this is like normal and good conversations and like respect and kindness for one another. And there's so many people that I've talked with who have incredible relationships. I'm like, of course, that's what it always is. That's what you should expect. I'm like, well, that's not how it always starts right out of the gate.
No, not my stories either.
No.
Like, congrats to them.
I know. I'm so happy for you.
Yeah. And when you kind of like, depending on your childhood and stuff and how your parents raised you and what your parents' relationship was like, and then like your first few relationships as like a young person, that defines how you approach any relationship in life, which sucks because like you have no control over your parents. And then you just get into things when you're young because you're like, oh, this is what you should do. And no one knows what they're doing.
No.
At all. Even now, I'm 35. I still have no idea what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So you're right. Like what you think is your intuition and your gut can sometimes like get thrown off by like what you're used to.
Yes. Until you take that time and do the work and then just, I think, really get good with who you are. And sometimes it takes being alone. I don't want to say alone like lonely, because I think that we can have a very good, full, enriched life with our girlfriends or in guy friends in that capacity also. But there's nothing wrong with not having a relationship for a certain period of time until you're really solid on who you are.
Yeah.
Because I think truly you have to be your best self in order to give that to someone else and then to attract in the right person.
Yeah.
But it's work for sure. And there's so many people who don't want to do that work. Like
I know.
Mark Groves, was that? Like,
Yeah.
It takes a long time.
Oh yeah, it takes so long. And I think that he said it took me 15 years to come to this realization. Like why I couldn't commit to people is because I was associating betrayal with love. And then what really got me, and I'm not going to be able to like remember how to articulate this how he did, but he said, you finish the sentence, when I let someone love me, or when I allow someone into my life, and it was like, I was like, oh my God, when I let someone love me, they leave was like my gut reaction. And so I was like, okay, well, there's something to unpack there for sure, because that's not always the case.
Yeah.
But that's uncomfortable. And like so I could feel myself like trying to like stamp it down. I'm like, oh, I guess I'm driving, so I can just like turn the podcast off and sit with that for a minute. But people, like, that's not your gut reaction to do that stuff. You, like, crank it up, turn on some like good music and keep it going.
Yeah. Let's deal with that.
I know.
And I think kind of probably 2 years ago is when I started to work on vulnerability. And they say that, and sometimes it's like this big blanket word, but to like truly get to a place where you can be vulnerable and let somebody in your life, whether it's a girlfriend or a partner, is so
It's
hard.
terrifying.
It's so terrifying.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even when, I mean, it's just a variety of things, right? Like definitely in my current partnership, I've been vulnerable and I've been myself, and I'm kind of like, this is who I am now. So this is what it is. But I have a girlfriend who went through a surgery recently and she couldn't really ask for help. And so even though she would try to, she wasn't really quite able to do it. So I've learned you just have to show up. She's
Yeah.
kind of one of those people where you just have to
Show up.
show up and be there. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But nobody wants to ask for help or be vulnerable or like, oh, I don't need anyone to take care of me. But there's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with that. I think genuinely, us as humans want to help in some way.
Yeah. I was talking to somebody about that. Like someone was sick and I was like, normally I would overpower them and like bring a care package and bring
Right.
all this stuff and not ask them if that's okay. But I was like, wait a second, this is a new person, like sort of a new person in my life. I'm going to ask you, like, are you the kind of person that gets uncomfortable when people do stuff for you?
Oh,
And he was like, yeah. And so I was like, okay, got it. Not going to do it, but no,
Okay.
I'm here if you need anything.
yeah.
So that's hard with like helicopters flying
Is that what's
by.
happening?
I think so.
Is there a police helicopter going?
So I don't know where I am, but sometimes I hear like it's the army helicopters that go by, like,
Oh,
scary
okay.
ones. So I was like, all right, I have to respect that. But like your friend, you're closer with her. You've been friends for longer. You know that you can show up and just be like, take my love.
Mm-hmm.
I'm caring about you. I want you to have these things and feel cared for. So just like shut up and take it.
Yes, but I think that's a good point to what you said. Yeah, somebody might not. Like, there are some people who don't like surprises and definitely don't like birthday parties.
Oops. But you had fun.
It was fun,
I
but now
know.
people know. And so, yeah.
Yeah.
which,
It wasn't my idea, to be fair. I was just the, I don't know, messenger.
I know, I was very grateful, very appreciated. It was wonderful.
Yeah, but I understand that. But like to me, I'm like, I love a surprise. I don't understand. So I'm just like, no, you're kidding. You actually do. So yeah, it's I don't know what brought us to that tangent, but
No, I was talking about being vulnerable and how it's hard to do that because yes, you
yeah.
should to be vulnerable, to be open with who you are and what you need and be your whole self, and then you can allow, I think, someone else in. And I think you know, in podcast 4A, you had asked the question, so I want to bring that up now. Which was, what do you bring to the table this week? What are you bringing?
Yes. What am I bringing? A couple things.
Okay. I like that it's not rage, as long as it's not rage.
It's not rage.
Okay.
No, the rage has subsided. I just said this at the beginning, into like a bit of anxiety. Just not a fan of the holidays. No one's
Yeah.
doing anything wrong or any of that. Like it's just, I don't vibe with the holiday cheer.
And I think that's a good thing. I do want to point or touch on that a little bit more because there are so many people who feel that way, again, for a variety of reasons. So you would not want me to like bring over Christmas cookies and say, let's decorate and we're going to wear reindeer
No,
headbands and things like that.
no.
Okay.
I would invite you to something if I wanted to. I'll take cookies. First of all, it's not, forget that. But no, like I got a Christmas tree, like went to the store, got it by myself. Like I like doing these things alone. I think where part of it comes from is that there's always the expectation that you do what your parents want to do, or you do what your boyfriends want to do, or girlfriends, or whatever. And I never really got the chance to have my own traditions. Or like, we would always make a shit ton of Italian Christmas cookies every year, but it was never out of joy. It was out of obligation.
Oh.
And I always had to frost them and put stupid sprinkles on them. It's like, no, I want to roll the balls. Like I want to make it. I want to like do something different, but I was the youngest, and so I did the like bitch work. And so I think that's kind of what I associate the holidays with, is just like not doing what's true to me.
Yeah.
So
Tasks
no,
and pleasing other people and what's
literally, yeah,
expected.
that's all it was, is just doing what everyone else wanted.
Mm-hmm.
So now I'm an adult. I have my own house, and I was like, I'm going to do what I want to do. And I have sort of but it's still like a weird feeling because like everyone has their families and
Yeah.
all like are going on trips and stuff, and I'm happy, like genuinely happy for them. But then they look at me. I'm like, I kind of want to go to a cabin like by myself for a couple days and like read and bring the dog. And
Right.
they're like, that's so sad.
I don't think that's sad.
It's not sad at all. I'm like, I
No.
love that. Like the solitude of it all. Like you were saying, people don't like to spend time alone. They're scared to spend time alone and get to know themselves. Like that, doing that kind of stuff, like taking solo trips, is how I got to where I am. Like
Yes, oh my
otherwise,
God. You're so good at that adventuring by yourself. But I
It's
think we're
hard.
getting so busy all the time and we're just taxed out by the end of the year. It would be nice just to. Like I said this year, I'm not traveling. I did not want my family to come in town who I love. And we had a great time last year, but it's so much.
yeah.
And then I feel extra pressure because I'm still working, but I still want to go to the grocery store and have all the treats made and make dinner for everybody. And this year was like, no.
Yeah.
And I would love to do that. Go to a cabin. I've got like 6 books on my nightstand that I haven't touched all year. So
Yeah.
if we could go through and read books, that'd be amazing.
Yeah, I think we forget that the holiday season, especially like the Christmas part of it, not Thanksgiving so much, but like it's supposed to be a time to like wind down and get quiet and like regroup to like go into the new year with like a renewed sense of self or something.
Yeah.
And it's always just like absolute chaos, travel.
Yeah. And then buying gifts for people, I can't. This year we decided no gifts. Let's just do experiences, except for the kids.
Yeah.
Because we don't need any more crap. I don't want to have something in my house that you've given me that I feel guilty getting rid of.
Yeah.
And
The gifts.
it shouldn't be like that.
No. But you have to do what you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess, yeah, I'm bringing that to the table. A little bit of holiday sneer, not
No.
cheer. I don't know.
No, I think that goes back to just being individualistic and what's important for you. And there's other people I know who feel the same way,
Yeah.
who just don't like it. Maybe they've had a death in the family that's always around Christmas time as an anniversary and they just don't want to deal with it or
Yeah.
have bad memories from the holidays.
There's so much stuff, so many reasons. So I am extra aware of it just because that's how I am. And I'm careful with people now that feel the same. And I try to be mindful of like my reaction. Because like I just like to hear about, you know, where they're at and why they feel the way they do instead of being like, oh, I feel so bad for you. You're going to be alone. Like, no, maybe they want to be.
Yeah, I know.
But yeah, what are you bringing to the table this week?
I am sticking with a theme here because it's happened twice now. So I'm going to go with confidence. And it is, well, let's go with confidence and, I don't know, not self-abandoning in some way.
The opposite of self-abandoning?
Yeah. Well, because so today I actually, there's a couple things, but today I went and finally through this process of a name change, got it done at the DMV. So now it's all official. And I feel like it's really, it's interesting because my last name has been Patton, which is my son's last name. And I kept that for a long period of time just because it was so much easier as he was growing up just to share the name. And now it doesn't make sense now that he's in his 20s. But I've had that longer than I had my maiden name of Beck. So it's kind of nice. Like it feels strange and I don't want to change it again. And I feel like I kind of can go back and remember like who that person was because I think thankfully women through the years have evolved where, you know, back in the 40s or 50s, you took your husband's name and there was a lot of pride in that. And respectfully, you would call them Mrs. Smith or whatever. And that's how their identity was driven, was just who they married since they weren't working. So I'm kind of going back to my roots, back to who I am, back to my maiden name, and not abandoning who I was.
Yeah, that's a big deal.
I'm excited.
That is exciting. A new signature, new cards.
I know, and I have to remember how to. So now I have a new middle name because it's very complicated. Because when I got married, I made my got rid of my middle name and I made my middle name my maiden name, and so I didn't want to just be Leslie Beck, and so I took on the middle name of Elizabeth with an S because that's a family tradition in my bio family who I recently connected with about 4 years ago. So
That's fun.
that's kind of exciting. And then confidence of like finally kind of coming into my own, I feel like, in my work world. And I'm just happy to be evolving in that realm.
Yeah. You have some big plans for 2024.
Yeah, I'm excited about those.
Yeah.
See what happens.
Stay tuned. Stay tuned.
Stay tuned.
Yeah. That's cool. I feel like I think you mentioned this, but going back to your maiden name is like going back to little old you before the husbands and divorces and drama and crap.
Yeah, exactly. And kind of just, you've talked about this a little bit, but like in my previous world, I would just chameleonize myself for that band because it was so important for me to get married. And so I let a lot of who I was kind of get buried in that to make them happy. And because I just was like, oh, I have to get married. That's how I have to be identify myself. And yeah, strip all that away, go back to who I was. And now I am who I am.
Slate.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder what guys think. Like, this could be a whole other podcast. Like, we're raised to be the more docile partner and to find a husband to take care of us. Like, are boys taught, like, you need to find a girl who's just going to do what you say, and then you have to make the money, you have to do all of, like, these manly things. Like, is that what men are taught?
That's a whole other topic. I mean, I would say for my son, I think his generation is changing, and that is not really what their perspective is. And he absolutely wants somebody who's more of a partner and an equal.
Yeah.
In so many ways.
Yeah.
And so I like, do you see some of these millennials who are getting married and creating a whole new last name, or maybe they are taking their wife's name instead. So lots of ways to live your life and how you see your family.
I think it's important to stay true to what you want too. Like, yeah, you're going to be a couple, you're going to get married, be united in some way, but instead of just blindly following the tradition of marriage, like, what do you actually want?
Mm-hmm.
Do you want a new last name? Do you want a big wedding? Do you want to wear a white dress? Like, that's where I differ from a lot of my friends that I grew up with, is like, I don't want any of that. Like, I want to party, absolutely want to party, but I'm not wearing a white dress if I ever get married. And I don't know that I want a diamond ring or like marriage period. I don't really care about it because like people can leave no matter what. Like, I don't need to be lawfully binded to somebody. So I think it's just a matter of figuring out who you are, what you want, not faltering based on other people's expectations, and listening to your gut.
Yes. I love that. Yes. At the end of the day, it's always going back. Whatever that intuition is, that little voice, getting quiet with yourself, doing that hard work. And you might not like the answer, but that's okay. Stay true to yourself. And I think that true north, like, you'll stick with it and you'll end up on the path you're supposed to be on.
Yeah. The more you listen to that little voice inside, the louder it gets. And it's there for you. And that's it.
And thank God it's there for you.
Yeah. It knows what's best. Sometimes. All the time. Most of the time. Yeah. Yeah.
Because those without it are psychopaths. So
literally.
I don't want to be that.
Literal murderers. I don't know. Yeah. So that, concludes we covered a lot. Self-abandonment, holidays, new last name, but going back to your original self.
Vulnerability.
Yeah.
Growth.
Ghosts. Circling back around.
Yes.
And staying true to yourself.
And always leveling up so that you can bring something to the table to your relationships.
Yes.
All right.
Okay.
Hopefully it recorded and we don't have a 4C.
Yeah. And that's a wrap for episode 4B.
Yay. Okay. Thanks.